Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Interactive Friction. I am Brandon Lee Carey. Joining me is professional mountaineer Samuel Callahan.
I'm the greatest mountaineer that ever lived.
That's what you call them, right, mountaineers?
That's what the outfit calls it, which is what I'm wearing. And also, the outfit almost throws it off a little bit because she's shivering like she's wearing a tank top, and yet she's wearing the mountaineer outfit. Because, you're not
Well, yeah,
really supposed
that's
to have
again,
that.
like we talked about that costume discussion earlier. Like that's why I tend to go for the default outfit if I can, because like you said, like it doesn't make sense for her to be shivering
Yeah.
in the tundra or
And
like
also,
in a warm mountain vest.
yeah, and it also, like, because the outfit actually dynamically changes as the game goes on, you do have certain points where
Yeah.
it's like she does, like, a self-inflicted wound with the arrow, and you don't see that marking on the mountaineer outfit
And it's
because it's a
pristine
single
vest
texture.
still.
Yeah, because it's a single texture.
Yeah.
Alright, so I think we talked about this in the first episode. Yeah, where we said this, like, the way they do the backstory.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine, but again, and this is an adequate compromise, but like there's so many better ways they could have done this.
Yeah. Also, I thought he had a picture of
Like,
an atom on his neck, but it's something else, isn't it? It's, I don't know what the hell you call that. Oh, I don't remember.
it's a sign that says I want to have sex with Laura.
Yeah, that scene. Well, we'll get to that when that comes up. And then fucking Grimm is
Then you have the
just so
crazy
weird.
old coot.
Yeah, he's just like, that's his whole character. He's old and he's kind of crazy.
Yeah, these were all kind of stereotypes.
Yeah. At least they're not entirely
They're
played for
not
laughs.
Yeah, and at least they're not terrible stereotypes. Like they could have gone really ugly if they
Like,
wanted to.
especially with Jonas. It could have... Like, the first time I saw Jonas, I was like, please do not make this like the guy from fucking Gears of War 2 and 3. Like, the tribal guy who was talking about, like, ancient lands and stuff. It's like, please don't go full on, like, the land of my people sort of thing.
At least he's more the person who's like, oh yeah, do you know how to cut a fish? I know how to cut a fish.
He's a guy who knows how to work hard. That's his whole deal.
Yeah. And Whitman is the fuck up who can't do anything right and is somehow the most famous of them all.
Well, he's probably the kind of guy who just, like, uses all
So in other
these
words, a
people to
Hollywood
get him to his
stereotype.
fame. Yeah.
So he's the Hollywood stereotype.
Well, he's the kind of guy who will take all the credit. Like, in the end. He'll be
Yeah.
like, yep, I did everything.
He's the character that Gilderoy Lockhart was making fun of in Harry Potter.
That's a reference I don't get, but sure.
Yeah, we'll
No,
go
okay,
with it.
Dan, just Harry Potter.
Look at all of these cuts that he has to make us to cut.
There's only so much you could say about these
all of
cutscenes,
these-
really.
Look at all these takes he has to make to cut one simple fish
Also,
one time.
The first 3 times I saw this cutscene, I didn't get the Gordon Ramsay joke. Now I do. So there's something.
You didn't know who Gordon Ramsay was?
Nope. I knew, like, the crazy guy who yelled a lot. I didn't know his name or, like, what he actually did.
Oh yeah, that's how they justify Sam's presence on the ship, is that she is the videographer.
Yeah,
Who's in charge of the
she's
film
just Laura's
crew.
friend, right? Like, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they know each other.
Yeah, she's Laura's friend from college, and she's the one filming all of the expedition.
She's not very great
Like-
at holding a camera.
Ostensibly, her job is to make sure everything gets caught on tape.
Including these emotional moments that seem kind of awkward to hold a camera up to rather than just look at it.
This
I guess if you're going to say it's reality TV.
this is almost creepy for Sam to take a video of.
Like, you could probably give off the idea of, like, well, she's creating reality TV, so she wants to have these emotional moments. But you figure Laura would see that and be like, that's a little weird that she was filming me during that point.
Voyeurism, ho!
Yeah. Yay. Alright, so now we get the brawler upgrades, which is all damage based. First things first, more health. Just always get more health in these games. 'Cause
That's going to be our running gag in our Let's Plays, isn't it?
yeah.
Always get health first.
Because I'm bad at video games, apparently. Alright, might as well just get the other bow upgrade at this point, so I can just get off my back.
One thing I don't like is how undescriptive the upgrades are. It's like, oh, you take less damage, but how much less damage exactly.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to say
Like,
without
you
a health
can-
bar.
Isn't it great that you can weasel your way out of that?
Yeah. I mean,
Where it has increased accuracy, but in exactly how increased is that accuracy, and in what way?
I feel like I'm not that bothered by it, but I feel like that's the difference between me playing a lot of action games and shooters and you playing RPGs. You're very much used to more
Yeah.
statistical looks. Just
Like even if it's like a relative, like compared to X, this is Y% better. Like I would, even if it's not exact numbers, like some sort of comparison I could make to make a good value judgment there.
Is that Laura saying shush? That's weird. Anyway, and then we have this is actually the first sighting of, if you never picked up any like audio diaries, it'd be the first thing you'd see of old Japanese origin. See these trucks. Alright, so now we're getting on to the fortress, which is actually one of the better... It's almost like a level in and of itself, just because of the way it's structured. And if I remember correctly, this is where you get the machine gun. I believe it's this one. Alright. So as far as who we can go first...
the assault rifle XP.
Can't tell. So I like how you can shoot the light out and they're just like, what the fuck?
If memory serves, the ultimate upgrade for the machine gun is an AK-47, isn't it?
I believe so. I know on my my completionist run I managed to get all the weapon parts, but I don't remember it that well.
Yeah.
Also, that guy's just carrying kerosene on his back. That seems like a bad idea.
Especially when you have a crazed lunatic shooting you.
She's not crazy lunatic yet. She's defensive.
I'm sorry. I thought we were playing Far Cry 3.
Oh yes, I could see how you could see that. It's a very common mistake. Far Cry 3. That game will be forever on our minds. Alright.
Nope, already forgot.
Yep. I want to say, doesn't the stealth kill change up later? I don't remember. If that changes throughout the game. Maybe I'm just thinking of like the melee kills.
I think it changes depending on what weapon you're using. Oh, no. I guess not.
Yeah, maybe it is always the bow. I guess that makes sense. I just couldn't remember if like,
No, you get like a special like stealth finisher later on that gives you more.
Yeah, I thought you got like a shiv or something later on. It just
like,
does this a lot faster.
Later on, they'll give you like you unlock special finishing moves, and if you do them, and they're the same XP as regular moves, but they'll just give you more XP. Like you won't just get an execution, you'll get a special arrow execution that gives you more experience.
Yeah, check this out, man. Nobody's seen me yet. Also, we didn't get to talk about it before, but automatic cover. That's probably,
yeah.
It's one of those things that, you ever play Army of Two?
No.
First one? So that game was the first one that I ever knew to have automatic cover, but it was pretty poorly handled.
In this game, it's very smart.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is I brought that up just because that gave... I remember when this game was coming out, people compared it to Army of Two, and they were like, I don't know, man, automatic cover usually doesn't work out. But Tomb Raider, it's very smart. And not to say it's 100% all the time, it is certainly messed up with me probably a good number of times, but just out of
9
the
times out of 10, it will do exactly what you want it to.
Yeah. And I feel like 9 times out of 10 is like the absolute minimum you can have for otherwise why is there not just a button.
And it's very liberal about what it will count as cover.
Yes. But I think it's very well done. Like, it was one of the, it's something that, even though it's not perfect, it was good enough that I often wasn't thinking about it. Like,
and I think the reason they chose that route is because in this game, having stick-to-wall problems would be a really big issue, given that the combat arenas are not typically very big.
Yeah, and they're...
So if you're sticking to a cover wall, and because you're going to have them, it's very mobile, you have to move often, so if they had you stick to walls, that would just kind of break the flow of it.
Well, it also means a couple of other things. Like, one is that if you have a cover button, Gears of War, Uncharted, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why that blows that up. But if you have a particular cover button, that means that you specifically have to set up objects that you can plant your back against firmly. So, you know, that's where the joke of, like, chest-high walls comes from, because they have to look at they have to look a certain way so that you can actually hit it. Whereas this one, you can have sort of, like, loose branches or something like that, and it's like, well, Laura's not taking cover behind them, she's not pressing against them, she's just kind of...
She's using them as, like...
She's just kind of crouching behind them.
Yeah.
So that's where I think that works out. Plus, you also... The automatic cover means you
Plus, you free up an entire button.
Yes.
Which on a controller is something that is very precious commodity.
Yeah, but it also means that you can have great moments where, because the automatic cover works the way it does, Laura can automatically crouch when enemies are nearby, and she'll just, if you walk up against the wall, and before you even get caught, Laura will automatically, she kind of like ever so slightly magnetizes herself to walls, which is just enough of a cue for you to go, okay, like...
Okay, it's combat time.
Yeah, so I know what's up. You can throw those in there. Yay, except nothing's happening at the moment. Because you have to go through here. Also, every time I see the animation, because I am a man, that always makes me cringe a little bit. Because that seems like it'd be very painful for me to do.
Oh, yeah.
I remember hearing that joke when this game first came out. It's like, as a man, this is like, oh, I don't want to look at that.
All men understand that same pain.
Yep. Right, this is where you get the World War II machine gun.
Yeah. Because of this lunatic.
Also, I have once stood in here long enough, and you will die from the gas eventually, if you just wait.
Oh, yeah.
So
I did the same thing.
No one leaves.
I love testing to see if games will fall through on their promises of "I'll kill you."
It's like the game's threatening you. It's like, I'll do it. And you're like, no, you won't. I'll do it. No, you really won't, though.
Because oftentimes they won't.
Yeah, most times they'll say, all right, you're the player. Fine, whatever. Also, we're getting up. This is the first and I believe only time where you can mercy kill someone.
Yeah. So are you going to do it?
I've done it every time, and I feel like it's in the spirit of Laura's character to do so. I believe she has different dialogue either way, though. Let's see if she does.
And if you don't kill him, he will scream for the guards.
Right, that's right. I have.
So I tried it just out of curiosity.
Oh right, yeah. My second run actually did not kill him, and he does get the guards. Otherwise, you can keep stealthing. But yeah, if you do kill him, then you have that line where she says "Go to hell," which is kind of the first inkling of her getting less scared and more angry.
And it's nice they take that very gradually.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good first time to show off the change is during an optional killing.
Yeah.
Which is to say, because, then you can come up with the idea of, like, well, it's because you, the player, have the agency to kill
them. And I love that since they know you now have a machine gun, they can feel a bit more free to give you these kinds of ambushes.
Yeah. Like,
Since you now have the tools necessary to take them on.
Yep. Oh, dude, I love, like...
Of course, it's not as accurate as a pistol, but it's really...
very good crowd control.
It's good for spraying a lot of bullets in a general direction.
Yeah. But, like, you can see in the subtitles, like, all the dialogue I mentioned last time, where they say things like, oh, use this for cover, which, like, it makes sense that if you were working as a group, you would shout out tips for the other guys. To be like, hey, you should probably do this to keep you alive.
Or flanker, or something.
Yeah. Which is just something, like, I feel like I see it in every review where people do actually do that. They'll be like, oh, it's really neat the enemies say that. It's like, why doesn't every shooter do that then? Like, every review I see of something like this, they're always like, it's super cool they do that, and yet it still only shows up half the time. And the other half, the enemies are just, like, dead silent, except for, like, death groans.
Yeah.
It's weird. That's such a game thing.
There was that line, Father Matthias will set us free.
Right.
Which is, like...
If their fanaticism for him.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you already got the idea that Matthias wasn't a good guy after he left you that way in the base, but...
Right.
It might not be good about it, but if you still if you still haven't figured it out yet, that was your first big hint that Matthias is probably more than he says he is.
And here, I'm just leaving this up just because this is what I mentioned in the prior episode where you can throw dirt at them.
Dirt tricks.
Which, again, because of the way the progression works, you actually have to get that before you can get the finishers with the axe. So they're basically using gameplay to reinforce the change in Laura's character.
Yeah.
Because this game is awesome.
I wonder how they're going to handle that in Rise of the Tomb Raider, because...
Oh, like the Metroid Prime problem?
Yeah, like, because they've kind of painted themselves into a corner, because, like, the whole point of this game is to establish that Laura has become a badass, so they can't really do the RPG thing in a way that makes sense.
Oh, there's the finisher.
In the way that kind of...
Yeah.
Helps them explain that she is growing as a character.
Yeah, like, I'm stumbling over my words. It would seem like a smart thing if they just went full on, like, alright, it's just more Uncharted-like at this point.
And then instead of focusing on her skills, you'd focus on the equipment that she possesses.
Yeah. It's really hard to say though, because it's one of those things where, like, I'm sure in focus testing, if they did do it that way, that people would be like, well, I missed the RPG elements. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't make thematic sense anymore. Because you really can't pull a Metroid Prime with this. You can't just say Laura forgot how to do everything. Unless she literally suffers from amnesia, and even then, that'd be kind of stupid.
That would be the worst twist ever.
The RPG problem.
Like it's not like losing our equipment. You don't forget how to throw sand in someone's face to disorient them.
Okay.
Also, I find it kind of funny that they, this is something that video games normally don't do, but they use brand names, like Radioshack.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying Radio Store.
Radioshack.
Yeah, that's cool.
Isn't that funny jokes, huh? Am I right, guys? Am I right?
Like, I just find that interesting because I know a lot of games don't do that for either legal reasons or because it usually comes off as kind of weird. But that was one of the things I actually liked about Homefront when it came out, because it tries to give a sense of place. Like, when people say Radio Shack, you're like, yes, a real person would make a joke about Radio Shack, not Radio Store. They would use a name brand that people know.
Well, and the thing that makes it okay here is that in, like, some games there's this fear of, like, we're going to Radio Shack, wink, wink, hint, hint. Whereas it's just a name that people use, like drinking a Coke.
Yeah. But that's why I thought to bring up that line specifically. It's because it makes sense that they would say something like Radio Shack specifically. We said the word more. I've said Radio Shack more in this past few minutes than I probably have past few years.
Yeah, because no one shops at Radio Shack anymore. Even though we all say we do, because that's like that's the joke. Like, if you need electronic stuff, you go to Radio Shack, but no one actually does that anymore.
Right. I'm just gonna go ahead and mention again, this game is gorgeous. Thank you.
Yes.
Reminds me a lot of the end of Uncharted 2.
Mm-hmm. Shangri-La.
I never noticed that line where she says this isn't normal. I guess that is kind of foreshadowing into the idea of, like, yes, this is not a regular island. Which, those supernatural elements, man. How do you feel about those?
Well, I almost want to wait a bit to talk about them, but
yeah, at least until they first start popping up. That's not too long after this. They actually, like, it's like the next thing after this that we get into some of that.
I'm not entirely sure I like them, to be perfectly honest with you.
To be perfectly candid, I think the game would be better without them. I feel like it's kind of a holdover of the old Tomb Raider.
Or even Uncharted had...
Uncharted? I feel like it's worse in Uncharted, though.
Because, like...
Fucking blue people.
That was Uncharted 2.
Yep.
Uncharted 1 had a different twist.
See, 1, I never knew what it was. I think somebody told me at one point. I know in 3, it's the Firehead guys.
Well, the interesting thing about Uncharted is the plot twist in that game was that the fire demons were just a hallucination.
Right, which I feel like was kind of a subtle joke about how people reacted to the blue people.
Yeah, because the whole thing is that it's not really supernatural. It's just you're trying to basically stop the bad guy from getting a massive mind control hallucinogen.
Yeah. You know, if there's one thing I would probably say that's somewhat detrimental to the game, to the gunplay, it's that while it's great most of the time, I do wish it was a bit more lethal when doing body shots.
It's funny that you say that, because that's actually one of the things that I wanted to say that I liked about this game more than others, that it is a very lethal combat.
I mean, it's much more like Far Cry, but like you can just see how many times I'm hitting this dude in like the shoulder and such, but he still keeps shooting at me. And like, but that's just a general shooter problem of most of the time. It's like headshots kill one, otherwise you gotta really pepper them, and it's like. But I guess it's because I play Arma and I adore that kind of game that I want just like 2 or 3 hits to any part of the body will just kill you.
Yeah, because compared to other shooters, this is actually very lethal. I liked that.
Oh yeah, compared to others, it very much is.
Yeah.
I just wish it was more, but that's just the person in me who likes the really extremely lethal gunplay. But a lot of people.
Again, it's also because it makes you're a lot. It's a lot easier to make headshots in this game, so you end up popping headshots constantly.
Yeah, which is like Uncharted. Like they both have a very similar shooting style.
Yeah, and I like that lethality, because in a lot of games I find it really, like, Uncharted has this problem in spades actually, where you will pepper this bad guy full of like a whole clip worth of rounds and he's still charging at you.
Yeah. That was actually something that Resident Evil 4 did pretty alright, as far as enemies actually reacting to your shots. But that's something that a lot of shooters don't do well.
And it's like, come on, dude. I just put a full pistol clip into you. Why are you still standing?
Yep. I like that when you shoot the guys off lines, depending on how high it is, they'll either survive or die. If they fall from like a realistically low height, then they'll get up and come at you again.
And I just like that in this game, you can die pretty quickly if you play pretty carelessly, but so can the enemies. The enemies don't really like live that long.
Yeah, which is why most of them won't charge you, because if they do, they try to do so with the advantage. It's not as great as, like, say, The Last of Us as far as enemy AI, but I mean, it's Uncharted level. It's fine.
At the same time as I say that, that could also be a problem, because since you have such lethal combat, you were basically mowing 1,000 dudes down by the end of this game, and that kind of raises the question is like, how are 1,000 people still living on this island?
Yeah,
like, you think
like
just
resources-wise.
Just like by the virtue of the fact that they don't have enough, there could not possibly be enough food on this island.
Yeah, they never mentioned anything about like growing like gardens or anything.
Again, my standard question: what do they eat?
That's it's just like with Far Cry 3 and every other game. It's just like, what? How do these people survive?
This is a great army descending up against one girl, but like, what do they eat?
I mean, to be fair, they do. There are some lines depending on if you come up on them. I believe there's one specifically where they talk about not eating in weeks, but that's still a lot of dudes, even only eating once every few days or weeks. That's still a lot of guys eating.
Mm-hmm. Like, you probably kill, I'd say maybe like 400 or 500 people by the end of this game.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing to look at, like a total body count.
I mean,
that would be really cool though if they had a situation where it's like at some point you come across some kind of like garden or something like that. Just something.
I mean, there are wild animals, but like that's barely enough to feed Laura, the amount of wild animals on this island.
Yeah, and they would certainly be killing them faster than they could reproduce.
Yeah, given that, like, you'd have to resort to cannibalism just to survive at this point, just so you have enough in the food supply.
Also, more foreshadowing for the World War II elements of the game.
Yeah.
Which aren't really brought to the forefront until, like, closer to the end game.
Mm-hmm. And this is close to time to call it, so when we head to next base camp, that might be the point to end the episode.
Alright, depending on how close you are, I might just want to hit the top of the tower first. I'm not sure. I'm not going to bother going back for doors and stuff. I don't remember how close the tower is, but we'll see.
Like, yeah, I do enjoy the lethal combat in this game, but at the same time, the fact that there is such lethal combat means they had to make design choices that, on this small island, don't really make any sense.
Alright, do you want to call it here, or you want to climb the tower?
I say call it here.
Alright. You heard Brandon, so yell at him if you thought this episode ended too early. Send him angry emails. And
you can send me emails that I will ignore to death.
Right. So next time, guys, we're going to climb this tower.
Yeah.
Oh, see you next time on Interactive Friction.
Take care, guys.